Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Beth, here to help you fulfill your potential in meditation. As most of you know, I don't have just one method that I teach to everybody, like one size fits all. Instead, I much prefer to teach people one-on-one, and the reason is that you're all different. So please use these videos as a guideline, and if there's anything that isn't quite working for you, anything that doesn't quite fit, then be in touch and I'll be more than happy to discuss those things with you one-on-one. Today's video is about metta meditation, usually translated into English as the practice of loving kindness. Now, the Buddha said that we can use loving kindness meditation either as a protective meditation, so that means as something that we practice from time to time to help support our main meditation, or we can use it as a meditation subject in its own right. And when we use it like that, it can actually carry us through to some really deep states, through to states of samadhi, the jhanas. Either way, loving kindness is an essential tool that we should all have in our meditation toolkits. Now, there are loads of different ways to practice loving kindness meditation, way more than I can fit into one short video. So what I'm going to do today is give some really brief, basic introductory instructions. The instructions just to help you to get you started with the practice. So, when we want to start loving kindness meditation, the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that the object of our loving kindness is always either a being or a group of beings. When we practice loving kindness meditation, we're not focusing on the feeling of loving kindness itself. When we focus on the feeling, it becomes a different type of meditation. So, when choosing a being to work with, usually I suggest that we start with what I call an easy being. An easy being is a being that we find easy to love. So, we don't want to start with a being that we hate or someone who annoys us. At the same time, we don't want to start with someone who we're very close to. So for example, not a family member. The reason is that with the beings that we're very close to, we tend to have more emotional feeling come up that can complicate our loving kindness. Instead, we want to work with a being that we like, we respect, we naturally want the best for them. And once we've chosen our easy being, then we want to find a perception of that being that we like. So for some of us, with our eyes closed, we'll be able to visualize that being. We can then use that mental image as our meditation object. For some of us, that act of visualization might be more difficult. In that case, we can work with maybe a picture of the being, a memory, we can even use their name, any perception of that being that we like. Once we have our perception of our easy being, the next really important ingredient that we need is some words of loving kindness that feel sincere. So one of the problems that can come into our loving kindness practice is that it starts to feel robotic, mechanical, idealistic, formulaic, dry. We want to avoid that. We want to stick with words that ignite in us a sincere and real sense of loving kindness, words that feel true. We also want to keep these words simple, so we don't want to go into a whole story. It could be words like, may you be safe, may you have everything that you need. Again, making sure that the words feel sincere. When we have the perception of our easy being and our sincere words, then we can start the practice, as usual, by relaxing our bodies, relaxing our minds, and then we can bring our attention to our perception of our easy being with our words of loving kindness, and use our words of loving kindness to sustain our attention on the perception of the easy being. As we do that, we'll notice that our minds start to calm down, become more concentrated, and also that our loving kindness starts to become strong and stable. When that happens, when we feel satisfied with the quality of our loving kindness towards the easy being, then we can turn our attention to ourselves and practice in the exact same way, using a perception of ourselves that we like and also using some sincere words of loving kindness. Oftentimes I don't suggest that people start with themselves because for many people we aren't the easiest being to love. So we can use the easy being to get some momentum behind our loving kindness before we come to ourselves. As we practice loving kindness on ourselves, we might notice that the quality of our loving kindness changes. If that happens, then we can go back and forth. So a few minutes of loving kindness to the easy being, a few minutes to ourselves, a few minutes to the easy being, a few minutes to ourselves. And as we practice in that way, we might notice that the loving kindness to ourselves and to the easy being starts to come into balance. Now, there are loads of ways that you can play around with this method. And the reason is that we are not just one thing. We all have loads of different aspects. Some of those aspects easier to handle than others. So for example, I could send my loving kindness to angry Beth, happy Beth, joyful Beth, tired Beth, busy Beth, many different versions of Beth that I could send my loving kindness to. So when we're going back and forth, a few minutes of loving kindness to the easy being, then to ourselves, then to the easy being, then to ourselves, we can play around with including different aspects of ourselves, starting with the easier aspects and working towards the more difficult aspects. And here we find that loving kindness can be a really powerful technique. The reason is that in the long run, our meditation can only ever go as deep as our capacity to accept. If there are aspects of ourselves or aspects of reality that we're not able to hold with acceptance, we'll never be able to put our wisdom there. So strong foundation in loving kindness meditation can underpin the whole of the rest of our meditation path. It's for that reason that it's an essential tool for us all to have in our meditation toolkit. So those are all of the instructions that I want to give for just the introduction to loving kindness practice today. What I would suggest is that you get off of your screens, get onto the meditation cushions and actually give it a go. Loving kindness practice is something that can transform our relationships with others. It can transform our relationships with ourselves. It can transform our meditation. So it's worth actually doing the practice. There is a remainderless ending of all suffering, so let's not waste time. If you're encountering any difficulty, if anything isn't working for you, then be in touch and I'll be more than happy to discuss those things with you individually. As most of you know, I do all of my work on a donation basis, so I encourage you to support me either through my website or through Patreon. You can find out about how to do that just underneath this video. Thank you so much for your support. Wishing you the best with your meditation.